There's still a lot of talk about Pokemon Legends ZA, so let's see what people are saying about my videos. I have several issues, so I'm going to list my biggest ones here. And this is one of those things where it just turns into an essay. It's like, oh, I have a few complaints, and then just boom. We're going to see a lot of craziness. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, comment your thoughts down below. But I really like doing these discussions and break it down because I was proven 100% right with Pokemon Legends Arceus. I was the only person in the Pokemon community that read the website and went, yo, that sounds garbage. And then the game came out and just proved me right with how garbage it was. But then kids still can't cope. So let's see how that's translating into Pokemon Legends ZA. We don't know what this game looks like, nor how it will play. Immediately wrong. It's Pokemon Legends, so we have that to go off of, so it's at least going to be similar, or we would have gotten a new main series concept like Let's Go or Legends. Also, it's still going to be very similar to Pokemon Legends, since it will be an action RPG. Criticizing it over one tweet from Nintendo that just mentions how it will take place entirely in Lumio City. Yes, being restricted is a bad thing. We also learned that with Pokemon Legends, that main series Pokemon, which Pokemon Legends is supposed to be about the adventure of exploring the region and growing to become champion while learning all kinds of stuff along the way and being able to experience multiple areas. That we already have Kalos. We have a rich, beautiful region with a lot of really cool places. The incredible autumn atmosphere of routes 14, 15, and 16 going into Lavaray City. Imagine that on the Nintendo Switch with open exploration. We are losing that because of the carelessness of Pokemon Legends and just how misguided of a series it is. The brilliance of Anastar City, the rustic charm of Dindamil Town, the unique exploration of Route 17. And I mean, when you think about Kalos, it's a celebration. The entire region experiences all of the seasons and it just feels wonderful. And with the sequel version on the Nintendo Switch, we can have a more powerful expression of that. Also, the train to a far-off region that isn't explained opens the door for Generation 10. We lose all of that because it takes place within the city, and these freaks are justifying it. I can tell you're only thinking of the one from X and Y. That's a lie, because my videos show the anime Lumio City as well as other representations of Lumio City to prove that it doesn't take place in the future because the Pokemon community is filled with idiots. Also, we have the map, and that was actually tweeted recently, and I offended the Pokemon community with the facts once again. I said this is the worst possible reveal for Pokemon Day. Pokemon Legends already the worst Pokemon game, so let's make it even worse by taking place within a small developing city. And people have gotten so deranged, they are saying that this is false. That despite Pokemon retweeting this and it being the main part of the promotional material for the announcement of the game, this is a lie. This is not going to be a representation of Lumio City. If that was the case, that it's Lumios from X and Y, I would agree that it's bad, but we don't know if they'll expand it or not. We know that they will expand it, and we've seen the expansion. We also have a concept for the expansion in the video, but if you actually look at it, it's small. We're going from a plaza to Lumios Tower like that. Like, sure, we're from bird's eye view and we're like zipping around the city, but I mean, look at that scale. Like the plaza, 1 or 2 buildings, tower, and then you go to all maps of Lumios, the anime, the games, and stuff like that. That's, what, 2/5 of the radius? And it's very quick. Also, you can, like, see the buildings. You know, we're not going to be able to interact with all of these buildings, because that's not how any city works. You can't just walk into anything you please. All this means is that we have more development fetch questing going on, which is awful story and gameplay, where we go down, you know, alley 3, and then we go down alley 15, we go into the sewers for 10 minutes, we find a note, we have to go into big building A that takes us to big building C, and just going to be like Mario 1000-Year Door backtracking times 20 without any real Pokemon experience. And while you say that they might, you talk as if it taking place in an expanded Lumio City is a bad thing. I mean, I just kind of showed how this is one of the richest regions, so yeah, it is a bad thing to just be stuck inside the city and watch the rest of beautiful Kalos that needs exploration, that needs a sequel more than any other game, just go completely uncared for. And since it's going to take place in the past, as we go into like modern Pokemon X and Y and modern Lumios, like there's nothing fulfilling there. There is nothing to be excited about by any measure. While I agree that getting excited for a game you know nothing about is odd, the way you describe people who did as fake Pokemon fans just kind of comes off as narcissistic. How's that a narcissistic statement? Over-policing of the fan base. Alright, there's a lot to unpack there, because yeah, it is also really weird and like, everything about Pokemon Legends fans is hypocritical, which is also why I call them fake fans, because younger generations and modern gamers, all they do is complain about stop pre-ordering games, stop buying games before they're released, make sure it's good before release. But then when it comes to Pokemon Legends and Pokemon Legends ZA, these are already the best things ever. You're not allowed to be critical of them, even though we know nothing about them. But since you know nothing about them, you're not allowed to say anything about them. But we already know that Legends is perfection and the best thing ever, so we're allowed to overly praise it and automatically invest our entire being into Pokemon Legends ZA. It is weird, and at least they admit that, but that also kind of does show like why they are fake Pokemon fans. And again, the dismantling I've had of Pokemon Legends Arceus. It shows a lot of the derangement of modern Pokemon fans, and these issues with Pokemon Legends are also complaints with other main series Pokemon games, but no, there's no fault with Pokemon Legends, or it doesn't matter as much as the other games, and then they hate every other Game Freak game on the Nintendo Switch. That's why they're fake. And then there's a lot of overlap with like Generation 5 fans and Pokemon Legends fans, and the Gen 1ers, they're the ones that say like, oh, if you dislike anything about Generation 5, you're just a Gen 1er. You're the worst thing with Pokemon. You only care about the old stuff, even though, see, they had muck and we had trash, and that's the exact same. Therefore, you can't complain about our ice cream cone. Let it go. Man, it's been, over 15 years, even though they're the ones that can't let it go. And even if you say, actually, no, Diamond and Pearl were my favorite Pokemon games, and then I really love Pokemon X and Y. It was only Gen 5 that was bad. Still call you a Gen 1er. It's the most dishonest NPC behavior to justify being toxic towards the franchise. That's as fake as it gets. I've seen plenty of people who obviously love Pokemon react super excited already, except they don't love Pokemon because they hated Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl extra hated, didn't like Pokemon Sword and Shield, but now kind of coming around to it because Scarlet and Violet and Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl were so bad. And remember, these are also the same people that didn't even give Pokemon Let's Go a chance, but now you're not allowed to be, like, they hated Pokemon Let's Go before it came out, and now we're not allowed to be critical of any other new game as long as it has Legends in front of it, despite being the worst series in Pokemon. Okay, it isn't just that it could be seen as over-policing. The way you say Legends Arceus was objectively a bad game just comes off as, if you like this game, you're not a real Pokemon fan. My argument is, if you can't be honest about the many problems with Pokemon Legends while default hating Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Brilliant Diamond Shine Pearl and Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon Let's Go because social media said so, yeah, you're a fake fan. And over 99% of my interactions with Pokemon Legends defenders, they have not been able to be honest or have any kind of rational discussion about the problems with Pokemon Legends or comparing it to other Nintendo Switch Pokemon titles. And I might have to do a video on this weirdo to kind of show what I'm talking about, because this person says the story takes place in a time after the Sinnoh lore. But if it's after Sinnoh lore, that means it was already established as Sinnoh, and the creation of Sinnoh goes back to Sinnoh lore because Arceus created Sinnoh, and before the Sinnoh games. But I mean, like, Hisui just absolutely makes no sense. It doesn't need to exist unless it's like an edgy fanfic that destroys existing Pokemon lore, which is a major problem if you're trying to make a Legend series to have some kind of canon or have some kind of way of explaining Pokemon history if you're just making up history and destroying existing history. They are so deranged, they say that no lore is broken, even though the Pokeball's existence and lack of explanation destroys all existing lore about Pokeballs. Great. Of course you don't have to like Pokemon Legends Arceus. That's just a complete lie. If you don't have the same blind support as everyone else for Pokemon Legends, you get attacked for any kind of criticism, despite it being the worst-selling main series Pokemon game, because it is the worst main series Pokemon game. And fans of Pokemon Legends can't even cope with that simple fact and reality, and they have to say things like, well, it was a single version of a game, therefore it's going to sell worse. It actually did better than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. No, maybe a few 100,000 copies are 2 copies being owned by one individual, and it's always been that way for Pokemon, but not half the sales, which is what these people think. And these are also the same people that think that Game Freak makes a Pokemon game in 1 year, and then it's rushed out because it's only developed in 1 year, despite it taking 3 to 4 years for every Pokemon game, which is the average development cycle of any game, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had no more issues than any modern game release, while also being limited by the objectively underpowered Nintendo Switch. It's also the same kind of lies that you hear from Generation 5 fans where they say, why does everyone hate us? Why does everyone hate Pokemon Black and White? When it's like, no, that is the most popular opinion inside of Pokemon, or at least on social media. And real Pokemon fans, they've kind of fallen out of the franchise because of all the nonsense, mostly just how awful the community has become to where it's not worth investing anything into. And now it's like, yeah, Gen 5 being best is a popular opinion, again, even though those are like the worst selling games. So maybe vocal minority, but it's the most vocal take in Pokemon. So making a blanket statement like that about an entire community just makes you out to be a jerk. Except not a blanket statement. I have over a decade of content proving that. Of course, Game Freak doesn't listen to fans. Pokemon Legends was them listening to fans, and it ended up being completely awful. Same thing with Pokemon Legends ZA, giving another Pokemon Legends game. When have they ever? Literally right here, which is a complaint that I have, where it's like, wow, Game Freak listened to the fans, and now Palworld is going to actually take market share from Game Freak. That's kind of crazy. Also, with the insane amount of cheating and complaints about how long it takes to get competitive Pokemon, every generation has made it magnitudes easier and quicker to get competitive Pokemon, while also taking influence from Smogon and trying to reduce the RNG or gimmicks inside the game for competitive. So there's actually many ways you can point to and say, yeah, Game Freak listen to the fans. Same thing for just the idea of making open exploration in Pokemon Sword and Shield and expanding it to open world with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Let's Go, when you break it down, is objectively everything the Pokemon community had a consensus on of what they wanted to see in a new Pokemon game by mixing things up. We have overworld Pokemon encounters. We don't have the same boring battle mechanics. Riding Pokemon came back and was expanded on, and we also have insane quality of life and other gameplay changes. That's why Pokemon Let's Go is the best Nintendo Switch Pokemon game. But no, the Pokemon community hated it because, again, just like the craziest of hypocrisy. So I agree, people who set those kind of expectations are doing something incredibly unhealthy, but this almost sounds like you're just saying that for the sake of being mean. I have no idea what part of my video this point is supposed to be. Like, I think this person is just like watching a different video and they're getting mad at me because all they've been trained is like hate Verlisify no matter how correct he is. Actually, you hate him because he only says the truth, kind of thing. And I have no idea where that went or how out of place it is. That's kind of crazy. TLDR, can't say anything about a game that isn't out yet, good or bad. You don't have to be excited for it, but you don't act like it's guaranteed to be bad. These are midwits that think taking a neutral stance makes them more nuanced and has some kind of superiority in the discussion or argument. But if that was true, that you can't say anything good or bad about a game before it releases, why are companies releasing promotional material to advertise the game before it comes out? Why does any game advertisement exist before it comes out if you're not allowed to have any sort of response, reaction, or expectation, good or bad? And also, what makes a bad expectation worse than a good expectation? Even though all you have to, like, this is the death of critical thinking, the post-fact social media brain rot, where you're just, like, you're not allowed to actually think and be rational about anything. And then spamming the word narcissism completely incorrectly again. Sound like some narcissistic person who thinks their opinion is always right. I mean, I've made incredibly strong cases, and at most points just say like the truth and facts, and people get upset about that. Again, when I was reading the Pokemon Legends website and said catching a Pokemon just once isn't enough, that sounds really bad, and having to return to the city every time for a new task, that sounds really bad. That is awful, objectively bad game design that everyone is on the same page with, except when you have to just be deranged and default say everything about Pokemon Legends is the best. And if you have to be hypocritical and dishonest to defend your position, then you're not a real fan of that position. So yeah, don't be mean to people even if they did something they shouldn't have. Ultimately, I don't have any expectations for the game, but I do have hopes. I'll just wait until we see more. Having no expectations for a game or content is on the negative side, you know, if we're talking about like good to bad, because that means there hasn't been anything presented for the announcement of a new game that actually has confidence, and then like all you have is hope. But as we've seen with like fake leaks and stuff and all the nonsense from that, it's like, yeah, Hope is completely worthless inside of Pokemon. And then just goes to the default. Verl is bad. I didn't even watch the video or listen to any of his arguments, which again, I just kind of dismantled where it's like, wait, I said the opposite in the video where it's like, yeah, I'm not basing off of X and Y Lumio City. I'm saying like, hey, let's look at what they have shown us. That's not good. The only thing that Pokemon is now is like fake challenges, hacking, cheating, and just the most empty junk food content, which is why Pokemon's dead, and we don't have like any of the old school fans and no one really caring about anything going on. Like, look at this, 7 days. Whoop, let's switch over to bigger view. 7 days, 1 million views for a Pokemon announcement. Pokemon Let's Go had like 6 mil by now. Pokemon's dead. Palworld's eating its lunch. I say that and people get mad. Just look at the numbers. Look at the sales for Pokemon Legends. Compare that to viewership and engagement. It never recovered from Pokemon Sun and Moon. And again, oh wait, Game Freak never listens to the fans. Everyone, well not everyone, but a lot of people complained about too many reveals for Pokemon Sun and Moon. We've been getting less and less reveals, and now there's no hype or excitement for Pokemon. And all we have now are toxic weirdos that can't cope. Really cool, really great community. Have fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.